Thank you. Dominique, if I can start with you. The Gonçalves success has been modelled everywhere, it's been seen. It's a beautiful thing, the Gonçalves success. And we all know that we need these frontline fieldwork to be supported by the local communities and led by the communities. But can you take us through how that works for you and why it's so essential?
In Gonçalves, we believe that our communities need to see the park as theirs. That park belongs to every Mozambican citizen. We have to change the mind of people thinking that the parks and protected areas belongs to outsiders. So it's very important for us that Mozambicans, people from the community, get ownership and stewardship of that park. Because when that happens, national parks is something that is a public will. It's not a private land, it's public. And when people really understand and want it, so they're the ones who then will cheer for you to either expand, maintain, or do something else. Yeah. And then we kind of protect ourselves from other forces that will try, for example, to get rid of them. So, communities need to see their own place, to protect it, to have ownership. They need to be champions for their lands.
And just a quick follow-up, how long does that take? And do you see that as a half a generation or 10 years or a whole generation? How quickly can you see communities like that, particularly say in Mozambique, really get it, understand it, and it becomes to run itself?
It's a long term. It takes time and a lot of effort, but it is possible and it's happening. Maybe you see that different communities take longer or less time, but it happens. It can be quick. Depends on also how you target some key people in the community. When we talk about educating girls, that's a big thing for us because we know that they will be the ones who make a big change one day.
Thank you, Dominique. And Andrea, African parks, you seem to have a great model. There's a sense of magic with the way African parks works. But can you describe for us, I mean, we work closely with governments on our Pristine Seas projects, and each one is very different. Why is it that a government would say, yeah, it's African parks, we want to work with you? How does that actually begin?
Yeah, so it hasn't been easy. The first park that came under our management, Majeti Wildlife Reserve in Malawi, took 3 years to secure that agreement and for the government to be okay with essentially handing over entire rights in terms of the management for us to be the one in charge. And that park was hunted out. There was nothing in that park, and they still didn't want to hand it over. I mean, I think even in the most failed of situations, there's still a reluctance to want to give that up. But I think what's happened now, I mean, fast forward, we've been in existence for 20 years. What speaks volumes, I think, is our track record. So we now manage 4 parks in Malawi. Because of having turned over that first one, we managed that. It was in 2015 that the Malawian government was so happy with the restoration, with the amount of money that the park was bringing in, the jobs that it was providing for, the community aspect, that we were able to sign on 2 more in 2015, and we signed on the 4th one last year. So, and we are seeing this in countries like Chad, where Zakume is. We manage now 3 protected areas in that park. But it definitely hasn't been an easy road.
I think it's a terrific model because, you need to know how the governments work. You need to develop that sense of trust. You need to get all this in and not just appear to be another conservation NGO banging on the door. Yeah. This is an enormous job managing the political side of it, and you seem to do it so well. But there's the other side where you need funding.
Yes.
Private partnerships, private philanthropy, input such as the great Wyss Foundation. This has made an enormous difference to conservation, and what a great launch. What a great way to tell the public that we care about conservation and to this great input. It's a terrific input and it's changed a lot. But can you give us a hint of your partnerships with funders, organizations and private philanthropy.
Yeah. So when we are in discussions with governments about assuming management, I mean, we do say it's true, we assume all the risk.
Yes.
And we typically don't enter into an agreement until we have at least 3 years of sustainable financing. That's on average 1.5 million to about 4 million a year to manage any one of these these protected areas. The Wyss Foundation has been transformational in that it was in 2017 we announced a $65 million commitment by the Wyss Foundation for some current parks, but it was largely for new parks with a matching component, which was really important because while that is an amazing amount of funding, we nor did they, we didn't want this to seem like a fait accompli, like, okay, we're done and dusted, we've got all the money, not at all. And what it's done is inspired others to come to the table, to match, to help increase the footprint. And what was amazing about what I opened with, about the Pendjari National Park and the country of Benin, this West African government came into this partnership day one, pledging $6 million to their own protected area. And that's kind of unheard of, and it's real money, it's a real commitment, it's part of the current president's vision for revitalizing their country's protected areas, because he comes from the viewpoint, which is right, that what's good for these areas is good for people, and that is what he's running with. So yeah, it's a fantastic move to see.
Yeah, it's true what they say, that money talks. I mean, I've recently, in this last, say, 2 years, bumped into groups and individuals who maybe don't get the natural connection, don't really get the conservation issues and all these things, but they get the money. And so there's a sense of, well, look, if that person's investing all this money in nature, then it's a good thing. And if maybe the results, maybe the returns from natural capital, all this, you know, the sense of investing in nature. So even if they don't get the bees and the elephants, they'll get the money. The money itself can tell the story, can't it? Yeah. And Dominique, for those people who don't get animals, I mean, I get animals. I had to confess last night at dinner that I've never seen a wild elephant, and it stopped the conversation dead for a while. But people don't get animals sometimes. Not everybody gets it. We're living in this urban world and people churning in commerce don't always get the point when you say there's a species gone or there's a species threatened. You know, how do, we communicate the value of animals, and how does it help inform people for conservation decisions?
I do believe that giving opportunity for people to experience it makes a big difference. Even if you don't get the animal, but if you experience something, and there's different ways to, to motivate your maybe forgotten idea of animals, your biophilia, as Professor Wilson would say. There's always a way to motivate people and put them on that experience. But there's also a bigger thing. Some people might not only care for animals, but also care for others, for other people. So why not showing them that caring for animal, you also make it good for the others that you care most about.
We're all in the same business, aren't we? I've often said in Pristine Seas that our job would be so much easier if that before any global leader or politician or influencer took their jobs, they had to go through a scuba diving course. But we've discovered that not all global leaders are divers, and not all global leaders have been to your places. They've not been to that front line. So yes, making it real and making it understand. Andrea, what about managing these places? I mean, what a challenge. The rangers, you've shown it so well and what people are up against. But we've now got technology. In Pristine Seas and marine protected areas, we've now got the benefit of satellite monitoring. And with the law changes, we've now got enforcement as well. But I would think that technology has made quite a difference to you.
You know what, it has. I think what we see over and over, however, is the school of thought that technology is going to save the day. And I can tell you, and I'm sure most of you here know too, being on the ground, it won't. But there are some incredible advancements that we have made. Again, with National Geographic, whether it's things like 3D scanning of some of these protected areas we manage, working with Vulcan, Paul Allen's group, in terms of the monitoring aspect of what our rangers are doing. Boeing we've worked with, creating smart parks. So these parks that are fully networked and animals are chipped and monitored, and sure, my gosh, it's helped immensely. But it does not take the place of well-trained human boots on the ground. And I don't think we're going to get away from that, at least in our lifetime. You still need the people, you need the patrols. I think too, what's interesting is seeing the role that our rangers play in terms of interfacing with communities and how important that is, the human aspect. Like I said in Zakuma, how we built trust. That was through the rangers, building trust with the communities. Many of those communities they come from themselves. So they are perfect ambassadors for being able to explain what is happening, what's going on here. So again, some great advancements, but if we get one more query or request for delivering us drones, there is this idea that drones are going to save us all. Yeah. And actually the most success we've had with drones was using them, but elephants are smart, using them to push conflict elephants back into a park if they broke through the fence. Okay. But then they learn after a few weeks, oh, it's nothing, you know, and they ignore it. That's right, it's not bees, which is why I think the bees will work. But that's actually been our greatest advancement with drones today. And it was like 3 weeks long that worked.
It's funny, that double-edged sword of technology. I was remembering, I can't remember his name. Who was our great explorer who inserted tracking devices in a fake horn, rhino horn?
Brian Christie.
And a wonderful story, and it's a brilliant story. And the thing that made me and millions of others jump was when he got arrested with his team and had to prove that it was a fake one. I don't remember, they were locked up for about 3 days. So this sense of double-edged sword. And with you know, Dominique, this sense of technology and tools, and we need all these tools, we need all this to work. And I'm excited about the bees, the beehives and elephants. It really captured all of us here today. Can you take us through, you know, the techniques and tools that you use and give us a bit more of a story on the beehives, please? I love it.
Oh, as I said, it's been well used, you know, and many places. But what I really like about this idea is that we bring a win-win solution.
Yes.
It's not only to keep the elephants in the park, but also community gets hands-on and they do something. We could use drones, but it's just the thing that they know the sound and they might think that they're bees, but then they get used to it. It's different with physiological pain. It's different with African honeybee stinging you. And they do that in the most sensitive parts of the elephants, ears, eyes, trunk. So even with the technology that help us a lot, for example, GPS, satellite collars, I wish I could put in many, many elephants.